individual beliefs, grant to this council wisdom, understanding, and sincerity of purpose for the good governance of the community. Item 2, apologies and leave of absence. Everyone is here. There are no apologies of leave of absence. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest?
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Farage.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 disclosures of interest pertaining to item 9.1 and item 12.3.
We'll go to 9.1 first. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so pertains to the Scarness Caravan Park. So my partner owns a caravan park, so I'll be leaving the room for that vote.
Okay, so there'll be a petition.
There'll be a petition,
yeah, okay,
yeah,
yeah, all right, yep. All right, so you'll be leaving the room for that?
Yeah.
And myself, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I have a disclosure.
Okay, can we just deal with their second one?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. And item 12.3 is a motion that will be put up by Councillor O'Keefe regarding the Pyleburn and Torquay Caravan Parks, and I will also be leaving the room for that one.
Okay. Got that?
For the same reason.
Yeah. All right, yep. Councillor Byrne?
Item number 11.4.2, the Lennox Street, Churchill Street, Woodstock Street upgrade. We have a declarable conflict of interest. I've just had a relationship with the...
Okay.
I'll be leaving the room for that one.
Yeah. Councillor Sanderson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I've got a declarable conflict for item 11.2.6, and that's in relation to the concession policy. So I'm on as treasurer of our church, Reach Church Fraser Coast, and they could benefit from that policy, so I'll be removing myself from the room for that vote.
I'll go to, I have a declarable one for 11.3.9. I've been advised that it's not necessary to declare it, but I think it's worthwhile doing it. This is for the item appointment of company to operate Appear Park Markets. I'm the patron of an organization that used to hold a stall at the market, that being Aldermen Unlimited. They no longer hold a stall at the market. They're not an applicant to run the markets. In the 6 or so years I've been appointed as patron, I think I've attended 2 of their meetings. I'm not old enough yet to be an actual member of the organization. So I declare it as a declarable, and I'll leave it to the room, whether I should stay in the room or not. I don't believe it impacts on my impartiality and be able to make a decision. Again, this is a community organization that used to have a stall at the markets and no longer has a stall at the markets. Councillor Truscott.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So I'll move a motion that Mayor George Seymour is able to participate in the discussion for item 11.3.9 and vote on the matter, including all subsequent discussions and decisions about the matter. And the reasons Mayor George Seymour is able to participate in the discussion and vote on the matter are as follows. A, Mayor George Seymour has informed the meeting of a declarable conflict of interest in the matter in accordance with section 150EQ of the Local Government Act 2009. And B, councillors present and able to vote on this matter accept the following. I, the facts as outlined in the disclosure and representations made by Mayor George Seymour. 2, the declarable conflict of interest for Mayor George Seymour in the matter is not considered to be significant enough to require Mayor George Seymour to leave the meeting. And 3, that it is appropriate for Mayor George Seymour to remain in the meeting and participate in the discussion.
Second, Councillor Sanderson. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried 10-0. Are there any further speakers or questions? Any further disclosures of interest? If one comes to mind during the meeting, you can bring it up then. Mayoral minutes. There is a single mayoral minute which has been slightly amended from when it was first put on the agenda. Also, I'll read the amended minute. And as I understand, this doesn't need a second. Is a minute?
No, it doesn't.
So that council determines the location of future ordinary meetings for the remainder of 2024 calendar year as follows. 1, where MCU 23/0090-408, the Esplanade Torquay, is listed on the agenda for the ordinary council meeting normally scheduled to be held in Mayoral. The meeting is to be held in Harvey Bay, and 2 subsequent ordinary council meetings are to alternate between Mayoral and Harvey Bay. I'll quickly outline what that means in simple terms. We have a very significant development application in the process of consideration by the Town Planning Department, that being for a 21-storey building on the Esplanade. It is my view that when this finally does come to the council for a decision, for a vote, it should be here in this room rather than at Maryborough City Hall. At the present, it looks like the application could be next month, that it is actually ready for a vote, and next month we are scheduled to be in Maryborough. So what this would do was, once we realize when it is going to be on the agenda, if it is next month, then we would change to Harvey Bay, and the next month be Maryborough. If it's August, there will be no change. Are there any speakers or questions? Councillor Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak in support of the motion. I think that there could be the view from some councillors that we should just treat this as ordinary business, and of course the application should be assessed on its merits, and I'm sure that all councillors will do that. However, we can't deny that the publicity campaign, the public interest around this application is great, is elevated, and I believe that it's in the best interests of openness and transparency to, if possible, make the decision in this room as you've alluded to. So I'll be supporting the motion.
Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Byrne.
Yeah, I'd like to, through the chair, speak against moving it. To me, it is business as usual, and by moving it to the Harvey Bay Chambers, it would insinuate that the rest of the Fraser Coast does not have an opinion on it, and I don't agree with that. I feel that it is just as inconvenient for people to travel from further to Harvey Bay as it is for them to go the other way up the road, and I think that in some way, by moving the meeting, we're inflating the importance of this one single development application. Therefore, I'll be voting against it.
Okay. Any further speakers or questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak for this motion to say that this is a bigger room, so we can get more attendance and more people into this area. Better car parking out the front and everything like that. I look at it as that, and I think it's one of the major decisions that's been made for a long time. So with those things in mind, I will be voting for this motion.
Councillor Truscott.
Yeah, I'll be speaking against it because, first of all, we're a region and we can't change the venue every time we have a DA come up. That's my first reason. The other one, it could even be August, so it could, they might change their mind and moving forward. And the third reason is what Councillor Byrne said, is that a lot of Mayoral people have a very strong opinion about it. In fact, well, I hear more of those, but so that's my reason. Thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? Yeah, Councillor Truscott.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the reason why this was brought up and the comments made by yourself and Councillor Cosgrove in support of it. And I do understand that, but my thought lies with the comments made by Councillor Byrne and Councillor Truscott as well. So I'll be voting against this. I'm sorry.
Yep. Any further speakers or questions? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour? 4, 5, 6. All opposed? That'll be 5. Hang on, let me just make sure that. Yeah, that is 5. That's carried 6-5. Item 5.1, ordinary meeting minutes for May, pages 6 to 42. Is there a mover that the minutes be confirmed? Councillor Cosgrove, second Councillor Chapman. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 6.1, open resolutions register, pages 43 to 81. Is there a mover that we receive and note the open resolutions register? Councillor Farage, seconded Councillor Truscott. Any speakers or questions? Put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 7.1, community presentations.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was one person that presented for public presentations this morning, Mr. Herb Taylor. Mr. Taylor raised concerns about the council's response in relation to his request for the installation of a public seat outside the Riviera apartments, and he also raised issues regarding homelessness within Harvey Bay.
Thank you. Is there a mover?
More issues on that, mate.
Thank you. Is there a mover for that?
Yeah,
Councillor Chapman, is there a seconder? Councillor Cosgrove, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 9.1, receipt of petitions. Are there any petitions?
Yes,
Councillor
Mr.
Byrne, and Councillor Farage is leaving the room. We'll just wait till she's left. Thank you. Oh, yeah, so you can see the two. Yeah, Councillor Byrne, yeah.
Okay, Mr Mayor, I'd like to present a petition to council. The chief petitioner is Ms Jeanette Maynes, and there are 4,985 signatories to the petition. And this petition requests that council ensure council public amenities, particularly Fraser Coast Regional Council, build gender-specific male and female amenity blocks. Mr Mayor, I wish to present this petition, and I move that it be received and referred to the CEO for consideration and report to council.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Wheeland, were there any questions on the petition? Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I can ask a question, I just noticed when the petition was raised there, I noticed the Queensland Parliament logo on the document, and I guess my concern is the petition, Mr. CEO, if you've got the petition, is it addressed to the council or is it addressed to the Queensland Parliament?
Thank you for your question through the chair. It has the Parliament of Queensland e-petition banner on top of it, but this council's always taken a position that it has a fairly relaxed position with regards to petition. I would expect that petitioners, when signing this, would have been comfortable. My expectation would be that they'd be comfortable being presented both to Parliament and to council, and I would expect that that would have been communicated to them by the chief petitioner. So it's been council's custom and practice to accept petitions when there is a minor non-conformance such as this.
Any further questions on this item? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried. Are there any further petitions?
Might have to get some
Yeah.
garage.
Sorry, Mark, if you can ask. Oh, here she comes. Item 10.1, the informal meetings record of matters discussed, 82 to 103 on the agenda. Is there a mover that we receive and note, please? Councillor O'Keefe, seconded Councillor Phil Truscott. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.2, the Wide Bay Water and Waste Services Advisory Committee meeting minutes for May, pages 104 to 108 of the agenda. Councillor O'Keefe is moving this, and Councillor Govers is seconding. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.3, the Fraser Coast Regional Council Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes for May, pages 109 to 105 of the agenda. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Byrne, seconded Councillor Wheeland. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.1 is the councillor meeting attendance for July 2024. This is pages 116 to 118 of the agenda. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Govers, second Councillor Chapman. Were there any speakers or questions? No. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried 10-1. Item 11.2.2, attendance at the 2024 National General Assembly of Local Government. This is page 119 to 120.
If I can move this, Mr. Mayor, and have the motion read that in Canberra for Councillor Daniel Sanderson to be the delegate.
Okay, is there only one delegate? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you're moving that council approve the attendance at the 2024 National General Assembly of Local Government in Canberra to be Daniel Sanderson. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Wheeland. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.3, the refurbishment concession policy, pages 121 to 130. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Paul Truscott, seconded Councillor Farage. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.4, pages 131 to 142 of the agenda, the amended policy, debt recovery policy. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Phil Truscott. Is there a seconder? Councillor Paul Truscott. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.5 at pages 143 to 152 of the agenda, the amended policy, financial hardship policy. Is there a mover for this? Councillor O'Keefe. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wheeland. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. 11.2.6, Councillor Sanderson is leaving the room. This is the amended policies, the water charge relief policy for community groups and concession policy and pensioner concession policy at page 153 to 184 of the agenda. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Phil Truscott, seconded Councillor Govers. Any speakers or questions? Put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried 10-0. The next item is 11.2.7 at page 185 to 192 of the agenda, the amended policy for principal place of residence council policy. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Chapman, seconded Councillor Cosgrove. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.8, the councillor discretionary policy 193 to 199. Agenda item 11.2.8, is there a mover for this? Councillor Truscott, seconded Councillor Govers. Any speakers or questions? Councillor Truscott?
It's not like to say that all I'm saying this policy is a good policy because the communities out there really appreciate, because we're the people on the ground, they really appreciate being able to fund stuff that they normally may not be able to do, and I think it's a really good policy. I actually regret the amount that has been changed from what it used to be to what it is now. I'm not saying that was too much, but maybe somewhere in the middle would have been good, but anyway, it's not my decision, but it's a great policy. Thank you.
I agree. And later in the agenda, we're looking at the grants, and there's a lot of really great projects by different community organisations with, a grants program which might come out, 2 times a year, and this is a long process. Often a community group very quickly needs something for a state championship that's being held here in a fortnight's time, and this has been very, very effective in supporting community groups very, very quickly.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I also like to support this policy. I've actually seen it work for little things across our community where people have, instead of sitting down and it's all about, this policy here is all about doing those little things for our community that little groups can achieve from. So I am fully supportive of it.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.9, the amended policy, competitive neutrality complaints policy, pages 200 to 215. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Paul Truscott, seconded Councillor Cosgrove. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.10, the amended policy, related parties disclosure policy, pages 216 to 229. Is there a mover for this?
Yes.
Yeah, Councillor Chapman, second Councillor Wheeland. Any speakers or questions? Put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. When's the next time we'll have to review those? How often are
12 months.
Oh, those policies are reviewed every 12 months? Yeah, okay. All right, so they'll all be back up for review in 12 months. 11.2.11 is the request for lease renewal, the Harvey Bay Pickleball Club at pages 230 to 234. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Wheeland, and seconded Councillor Govers. Any speakers or questions? I just want to say pickleball is a very, very fast growing sport. It is very, very popular and a lot of fun, and we're seeing a real growth in this form of organised sport here in Harvey Bay. Hopefully there'll be a club opening in Maryborough sometime in the not too distant future. Yeah, they do it. U3A has something. Yeah.
That's not a club,
Yeah. Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.12, council land available for multi-purpose community centres, pages 235 to 239. Moved Councillor Paul Truscott. Seconder, seconded Councillor Farage. Any speakers? Councillor Truscott?
Just briefly to thank Director Parsons and his staff that have looked into this. I know it's been a big process looking into it and seeing where we can go with it in the future. So just to thank you, Director, and your staff for all the work that you put into it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I will be voting for this, but I have got concerns of the location of it. With the connectivity we have with along Mayoral Road, for young people travelling, riding push bikes and and that along that area, and for looking at the pathways. It's good to have a location that we can build a community hub, but it's a bit like our sports precinct at the moment. Is we're playing catch up with pathways and everything for that. And I think a community hub I would have liked to seen more work gone into the accessibility to this facility, of how young people can get there by walking, scooters, or by push bike. Thank you.
Yeah. Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.3.1, the Mayoral Old Admin Site, the Community Engagement Report, pages 240 to 323. Is there a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Sanderson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Phil Truscott. Any speakers or questions? I want to thank the staff for all the work that's gone into this. This was quite a large task. It is the fitting of a really great opportunity. This is a new part in the centre of the Mayoral CBD with so much potential, and we need to make sure that we get it right so it serves the community for future generations, as we know is possible. And so thanks to the staff and to everyone who participated in the community engagement for this, which was quite extensive. Any speakers or questions? Put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.3.2, the expression of interest, Lisa 445 Kent Street, Maryborough, the former baby clinic building, pages 324 to 326. Councillor Truscott, you've got a motion on this one?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation, but to also add a point 3, which reads that Council be provided with a report that considers the provision of a lease to the Maryborough Regional Art Society Incorporated in either the Kent Street facility known as the Creative Space at Gattaca's Art Space or the Customs House building on the corner of Richmond and Wharf Streets.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Byrne, do you wish to speak to this?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just briefly to note that while this particular agenda item is specifically addressing the baby clinic building and the Art Society is separate, they were one group that had expressed interest initially in the site but didn't make a formal application. I think councillors and council are very aware of the current situation that they find themselves in, and so this is about trying to help them find a suitable space where we might be able to find good ground with us and them going forward.
Yeah. Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried 10-1. The next item is 11.3.3, report on the impacts of roadside vending approvals issued under local law number 1, pages 327 to 329. Is there a mover for this? Councillor O'Keefe. Seconded Councillor Govers. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion, all in favour. Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.3.4, the parklet policy and parklet design guidelines approval, pages 330 to 359. Councillor Sanderson, second Councillor Paul Truscott. I just had a quick question. When is Bar Soma going to have a parklet?
I might refer to the director.
Move slowly.
Long, complicated history. The quick answer is soon.
Okay.
The short version of the long history is that obviously went through council a long time ago, based on a design for half the car parking space.
To avoid the fire hydrant.
They then, after council had approved that, then decided that they wanted to use the whole car park, which had to result in a significant amount of redesign, engagement with my colleagues in Wide Bay Water to make sure that that could be designed in a way that didn't impinge access to the water mains.
Like when you pave over the hydrants.
That's right. Yeah. So essentially we've found a solution, and that should be progressing relatively soon.
Okay. Any further? Councillor Farage?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to speak in support to this motion, and first of all I just want to thank the staff that worked really diligently and hard on this. They've done a really, really good job, and it's a fantastic policy. And also it's really exciting to see, and hopefully more businesses choose to create parklets out the front of their precinct, because I think it's going to just beautify the region and also increase people's support for small business.
Councillor Sanderson?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to speak in support of it as I move the motion, but I think I noticed 11 years ago was the first parklet that came into the region. But to see where we are today, and I echo the words of Councillor Farage to our staff, where we are today is a great step forward. I think allowing businesses across the region to actually create precincts and areas that people want to dine and be at is only a healthy positive for the region. I think the balance between having car parks and of course parklets is a balance that's not easy, but moving forward, I think if we're creating regions for people, especially CBDs, to visit, this is a way to do that and encourage people to come in, so definitely happy to move it.
Yeah, and I think, if you look at what's happened over the past 10 years with the parklet in front of Madigan's in Harvey Bay and the parklet in front of Toast, very few people would say that that little space as a parking space is better value than that little space where people can gather. It's much better use of that little space to take away one single parking space. Yeah, I'll put the motion on. Oh, Councillor Truscott?
Yeah, I was just going to speak in support of it briefly as well to say, to echo your statements, you took the words from my mouth. I think they're a fantastic initiative, and just to thank the staff. And yeah, I really look forward to seeing more of these pop up. We want to encourage more of the pedestrian activity where you see people out and enjoying the place, and this does exactly that. So I look forward to it.
I'll put the motion. All in favour? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.3.5, provision of residential parking permits in Mayoral CBD, pages 360 to 362. Is there a mover for this? Yeah, Councillor Byrne, seconded Councillor Sanderson. Yeah. So can we just suggest that the final, because I'll just read it out. So at the moment, the motion is that council delegate authority to the chief executive officer to commence the process for amending the Fraser Coast Regional Council's subordinate local law number 5 parking 2011 pursuant to the local law making policy. And then the final line should be to include the provision of residential parking permits. Is that acceptable to the mover and seconder? Yeah. Thank you. Were there any speakers or questions? I'll speak briefly to this. This motion that started this process arose from a few people who own historic residences in the Mayoral CBD. The Mayoral CBD, like many townships, you had the commercial premises on the ground floor, whether it's a dental surgery or a bank or a shop, and upstairs was the residence. So, for example, on August 8th or 9th, 1899, the bank manager of the bank on the corner of Kent and Richmond Street had the baby P.L. Travers, who wrote the Mary Poppins books, upstairs in the residence, because he was the bank manager and he lived upstairs. And so we have all these residences across the Mayoral CBD where we want people to live, to really enliven the Mayoral CBD, but they don't have parking spaces. There, when a building was built in 1877, they didn't create multi-park garages. So what this is looking at is how we can provide a parking permit for people in these historic residences that we want people to be living in, and how that might work. So I think it's part of the process of things we need to tidy up to try and get the Mayoral CBD enlivened with people living in the inner CBD. Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. The next item is 11.3.7, the Fraser Coast. 11.3.6, council action for noise concerns on residents from Harvey Bay Bunnings development. This is pages 363 to 366. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Farage, seconded Councillor Govers. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.3.7, the Fraser Coast Regional Council community grants, rounds 3 to 4. Panel recommendations to council for funding decision, pages 367 to 386. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Paul Truscott, second Councillor Phil Truscott. Any speakers or questions? Councillor Farage.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say it's fantastic to see so many community groups applying for these grants, and I think it's really important that council supports them through this, and just to see how volunteering across the community brings people together from different parts of the community and actually creates long-lasting friendships and impacts on the community. I think communities don't run without volunteers, and I think volunteers are a cornerstone of a great community.
Councillor Truscott?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just to say, it's great to see all these groups applying. As Councillor Fraser said, I was one of the members on the panel for this round of funding, and it's very difficult to try and spread that funding around to so many groups, and obviously they all can't get the amounts that they're seeking, and so I wish them the best in their endeavours as well to get the remaining funding for their projects, and I'm sure they will be, but I think it is wonderful to see how many groups there are out there doing great work in the community. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. On this list of the successful organisations represents, whether it's Maryborough Stedford, the Glenwood Wildlife Awareness Incorporated, Tyrone District Land Care, or the Wide Bay Historic Machinery Club. All these different organisations in here really reflect the depth and the interest in different of our community.
Mr Mayor?
Yeah, Councillor Chapman?
Mr Mayor, I'd actually like to support this also. It's good to see that funding is going out into our community. When we have a look here, there's facilities like the Riding for the Disabled where they've got their indoor arena, and now they're putting tanks off it where they can collect that water where it was just going onto the ground before. I look at the funding that is here, and it's around the council's given out something like $117,000 back to our community. But it just goes to show you the rising costs that we've got across our region, because there's been an ask for around about over $300,000 on equipment. And you look at some of the costs on some of these projects, and you can just see how things are getting so much dearer for these clubs. And it's harder and harder to sell raffle tickets and raise money out in the community. So this is much needed, and we'd just like to make sure this is forthcoming in time. Thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.3.8, the Fraser Coast Inclusive Access Advisory Committee, call for nominations for community members, pages 387 to 392. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Byrne, second Councillor Whelan. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.3.9, appointment of company to operate the Pier Park Markets, pages 397 to 407. Councillor Truscott.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to move a motion which changes a couple of points from the officer's recommendation. Point 1 remains the same. Point 2 I'll read is to award the tender CTDC 036 23-24 operations of bi-weekly markets at Pier Park, Urangan to community-focused markets, Fraser Coast Association Incorporation, for a cost-neutral price to provide a greater benefit to the Fraser Coast community by awarding the contract to a local not-for-profit community group. And in point 3 it then reads, delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to negotiate and enter into a contract with community-focused markets, Fraser Coast Association Incorporation, and award the contract for a term of initial 2-year contract with a 1 times 1 year extension option subject to satisfactory performance and the agreement of both parties. And point 4, advise the other tenderers that their offers were unsuccessful.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Phil Truscott. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? All opposed? That's carried unanimously. The next item is infrastructure services, 11.4.1, formal street naming of unnamed road 176 Torben Lee. This is page 408 to 412. Councillor Chapman's moving this. Is there a seconder? Councillor Byrne. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.4.2, Lennox Street, Maryborough, Churchill Street to Woodstock Street. Oh yeah, Michelle's left. Sorry, Councillor Byrne is left. This is page 413 to 426. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Truscott, seconded Councillor O'Keefe. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 12.1, request for a report that considers an increase to the service level of open space maintenance of the Point Vernon Esplanade on page 600. This is moved Councillor Cosgrove. Is there a seconder? Councillor Whelan. Councillor Cosgrove, do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mr Chair. Just to draw to councillors' attention, we did receive a briefing note on this, and open space on the Esplanade side of Point Vernon is currently designated medium profile. So my intention with this is to essentially make sure that we're holding our Esplanade to the highest possible standard. It is a regional asset, and I believe that at times we have seen it looking just a little shabby, to be honest. And we need to make sure that this regional asset, which is enjoyed by many, many people each day, and I won't single any other parks out, but I see other parks in the high-profile park list probably having a lower use case than the Esplanade at Point Vernon. So I think we need to pull our socks up a little bit and just look at the report to consider the costs that this would involve, because I'm aware that all councillors will want to consider that. That's what I'm asking to look at, to see if we can just hold ourselves to a little higher standard for the Esplanade and the Point Vernon end, to make sure that people can feel proud, can feel comfortable walking their dogs, they're not trudging through long grass and the like. So yeah, I think we can do better there, and that's why I'm asking for this report.
Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Sanderson?
Through you, Mr Mayor, to the director that oversees that area. The parks hierarchy, how would that deal with this process?
So I can talk to that. So this precise matter and other matters will be discussed as part of the parks hierarchy included in that discussion, and the report that will come back in response to Councillor Cosgrove's question will be the report that details the outcomes of the parks hierarchy strategy.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Chapman?
And is there a time frame when that'll be back?
So I couldn't give a time frame. It really depends on the outcomes of the workshop with councillors. So I'd expect that in the next 3 months we would be undertaking that parks hierarchy review.
Thank you.
Councillor Truscott?
So a question to the CEO. So that's what you're saying is this work is going to be done anyway?
So what I'm saying through the chair, what I'm saying is that the report that Councillor Cosgrove has asked for, the response to that will be the parks outcomes of the parks hierarchy strategy, and by raising this and putting it on the council agenda, getting resolution, Councillor Cosgrove has ensured that will be specifically discussed as part of that review.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 12.2, request for report which details options for how council can incentivise a greater diversity of housing. This is page 601 on the supplementary agenda. Move Councillor Cosgrove, seconded Councillor Farage. Councillor Cosgrove?
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'd like to move the motion as written, however, without the inclusion of the last sentence. So for clarity...
Just check if that's okay with the seconder?
Yes.
Yep. So for clarity, I move that council requests a report which details options for how council can incentivise a greater diversity of housing products, such as units, townhouses and smaller lot housing, which would provide opportunities for younger people, singles and other people who are underserved by the current housing stock being delivered across the Fraser coast. So as all councillors are aware, we are growing rapidly with no signs of slowing up. This growth presents many challenges, but particularly when it is in developers' best interest to build whatever sells. That's their prerogative. And as our current development approvals show, with some already under construction, others approved and many completed, there has been a strong demand and therefore incentive for the construction of new over 50s villages. And to be fair, who wouldn't want to come here to the beautiful Fraser coast to live out your retirement? We have some really fantastic lifestyle resorts and villages in our region. I was blown away to visit residents of Time Lifestyle Resort in my division and Eli Waters. They even have a bowling alley, which is pretty cool. My parents live at the Anchorage in Urangan, another great facility, and there are plenty of other great places around. And the residents who already live in them, as well as our other older residents, have needs that our city and our region will not be able to effectively service without an urgent effort to address our demographic challenges. We need to promote, incentivise and encourage developers to diversify the housing stock which they are producing to the market so that we can encourage young workers to move to our region and start to turn the tide on our demographic imbalances. In a recent presentation by demographer Simon Kustenmacher, hosted by the Fraser Coast Property Industry Association, the stark reality of our demographic challenge was clearly illustrated across many graphs. One of them showed the large disparity of our Fraser Coast population distribution compared with that of the overall Queensland population. From ages 18 to 48, we are vastly below proportion of population in that age bracket. But from 54 years onwards into the 80s, we trend in the other direction, far above the Queensland distribution. The statistics clearly show that our population distribution presents a significant planning challenge to us as a council and as a region. We need to unlock and promote housing options that assist in the recruitment of younger people to our region. Mr. Kustenmacher put it fairly bluntly when he said, and I quote, "You are missing people in their 20s and in their 30s at an insane scale." Considering the age of our population, it is absolutely vital that we do everything we can to attract younger people in order to provide our existing older residents with the vital services they need to live out their retirement. I see real estate ads marketed for first home buyers with price tags in the 6 or even 700,000s, and I just think, who are we kidding? To put it simply, we won't recruit young nurses, doctors, police officers, allied health professionals, aged care workers, tradespeople, you name it, unless they tangibly have somewhere to live. We need to outcompete other regions by incentivising new affordable housing options to recruit our workers of today and of the future. The imbalance in our housing supply is one piece of addressing our demographic challenges, and it is an important one. We as a council can set our intention to address these challenges within the context of our upcoming review of the planning scheme, and I believe that supporting this report will be a first step in our acknowledgement that this is an area that needs urgent attention. Thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Farage?
As seconder, I'll definitely be supporting this motion, and I echo Councillor Cosgrove's sentiment in that when I graduated from school here just 5 years ago, 69% of my cohort left immediately after Christmas and they echoed to me that there was no housing here, the university here doesn't provide enough subjects for them, and they didn't think that they wanted to live here because there was no recreation or anything to do. So I think this is really important for us as a region moving forward, that we ensure that we are securing our workforce for the future and to be able to support our older residents and really balance out that demographic that we have at the moment.
Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Chapman?
Mr Mayor, I actually will speak for this motion, but I've actually listened to Simon now. I've listened to 3 times, and I've listened to him talk about Queensland. Now, he talked about, the last time he talked about was Fraser Coast, but then he talked about, when I was at the Gold Coast at the planning conference down there, he talked about Queensland and about the population growth that's what's happening across Queensland. And he's saying that we're living longer, our age is number is growing, is to what we're living to. So we need more and more young people to care for us, to look after the elderly. And so I actually looked at the Sunshine Coast years ago when it got to a population growth, and there's a few things that are happening in Hervey Bay. There's no nightlife really here for young people to keep them here in Hervey Bay. But I feel there will be in time to come. As we're growing, you'll find that we're going to need younger people. And I can see what you're saying with doing the incentives that you're talking about, trying to incentivise more units and things like that for young people, where they can go and rent houses to get a kickstart, buy a cheaper unit, and then use that equity to grow. I can see where you're coming from there. We're not going to stop retirement villages. Retirement villages for this climate there was I think in the paper a couple of days ago about the companies are looking at this region for retirement villages because it's an ideal situation. It's nice and level, and it's a climate that retirement villages. And I've been into latitude 25, one's in my area, Fraser Shores, Golden Shores, I've been in that. Those people are loving their life. There's a lot of people in there really enjoying what they're doing. So Bolton Clark, I was there last week. So we've got to, what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying, but we've got to look at this big picture, and it's not only our housing, it's what our young people can do and what work they can do. So the more work incentives that we can do for this region, the more chance we're going to keep younger people within our region. Thank you.
Councillor Byrne?
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you, Lachlan, for your motion. There's a massive manufacturing and trade explosion in our region. There's already suffering with a massive lack of housing, and I will be supporting this motion because I feel that we have so many young families coming to the area looking for a start, but there is nowhere for them to live at this point. So I totally agree, and I'll be supporting this motion.
Councillor Sanderson?
Through you, Mr Mayor, to Councillor Cosgrove, just in relation to the last sentence of the motion. Would the mover and seconder be open to keep?
Yeah, we did, Councillor Sanderson. Yeah, we dropped the.
It's still in there, that's all. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so what they've actually moved doesn't.
I'll explain to that, yeah.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 12.3, requests for a report on the refurbishment of the Pyalba and Torquay caravan parks. Councillor Farage is leaving the room. Page 602, this is moved, Councillor O'Keefe. Is there a seconder for this? Councillor Paul Truscott. Councillor O'Keefe.
Mr Mayor, I might put the motion and then request a right of reply, if required.
Yeah, if anybody speaks against it, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors. I would like to request that council be provided with a detailed report that provides A, future operating and capital costs and revenues for the refurbishment and operation of the Pyalba and Torquay caravan parks, and B, details on the options and the process required to provide alternate uses of the land upon which Pyalba and Torquay caravan parks are situated.
Did you wish to speak to it generally, or are you happy to? Yeah. Okay, Councillor Truscott.
Yes, I have a question for the CEO through you, Mr Mayor. I'm sort of happy with point A. Point B I'm not really happy with, but I just want to ask the question, if you have any idea of how much this would cost? Is that a hard question, or should I ask?
So I'm happy to answer the question, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure the Director of Organisational Services will correct me. But Part B, which asks for details on the options and the processes required to provide alternative uses of the land upon which Pyalba and Torquay caravan parks are situated. Both of those caravan parks are situated on reserve land, and the process for extinguishing the reserve are fairly are well documented, so I don't expect that there will be a need to engage any external consultants. It's just internal resources that would be required, perhaps a secondary legal advice in terms of our interpretation of that. So I don't think that the cost or the demands on satisfying that request are onerous.
What about A?
Similarly with A, the future operating and capital costs and revenues for the refurbishment and operation of Pyalba Torquay Caravan Park. We've recently called for tenders for the refurbishment of a caravan park, so the capital costs are known. The revenues can be estimated based on the reduced number of sites on those. So the revenues can be estimated, and the operating costs can be estimated based on past operating costs and the future work. So again, I don't see that as being particularly onerous.
Councillor Cosgrove.
Yeah, I had a question, thank you, Mr Chair, to either Director Parsons or the CEO. How much expenditure on the capital side are we forecasting in our 10-year plan on these two caravan parks?
That's a good question.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Cosgrove, through the Mayor. I can provide you an estimate, and if you give me a little more time, I can actually look it up in our program. I think our estimates are a little over $10 million for development of each of the parks. Now, proportionally, Pyalba is considerably larger than Torquay, so I'm not intimate with what those estimates are. just now, but I can certainly have a look at the schedule.
That's fine. I'm happy to speak generally to the motion, Mr Chair. We're looking at spending, in excess of $20 million on 2 caravan parks, and I think it's right to ask the question, is that expenditure the right thing to do for the region? We are building a CBD precinct in Pyalba, and I think Pyalba Caravan Park particularly, we could be engaging with the community to ask, would this be better to be a public space for everyone? That's not just for the use of caravanners, and I understand there'll be a financial impact to that. But I think if we're looking at options for our community, this could be akin to akin to the South Bank precinct that draws people in and go, wow, look at that foreshore area where we can sit with our families and enjoy. I understand there'll be nostalgia attached to the caravan park, and many people have great memories there, so I'm not suggesting we make that decision now, but when you're going to spend over $20 million of the community's money refurbishing caravan parks, you need to ask the question to the community, do we still want all these caravan parks in these prime locations? Should we open it up to everyone? So I'm strongly supportive of getting the numbers on this on these items, so we can really seriously consider the future of those areas. Before we make any expenditure. Thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Chapman.
Mr Mayor, I'll be voting for this motion because to bring back to council to look at. There's a couple of things that I have got concerns about, is what was just said by the last speaker about making a recreational area for all the community to go and use, such as South Bank or something like that. At the moment, I know that these caravan parks, Harvey Bay was actually built on caravan parks. We had businesses in Mayoral and people come to Harvey Bay for holiday, and then they built houses, bought blocks of land and built houses. If you have a look back through your history books and see how Harvey Bay actually grew. But I've got major concerns on getting rid of our caravan parks in Pyalba, because there's so many people, if you have a look at the demographics, there's so many people wanting to travel, and I know people that actually stay in the caravan park with their children, especially Pyalba, because it's right beside Westside. But turning it into a community park costs us a lot of money. Have a look at the cost of Yalula, what Yalula in Maryborough cost us, what Westside's cost us, even our, talking about fun areas, is even our swimming pools, what that's costing. And I'm not a real believer of turning that area into a facility as a playground area, where I'd rather see people come in with their caravans, bring their families along, because sometimes children, one of the memories that they always remember is the memory of when they went away camping or holidaying with their parents. There's always something that you remember of when you did that, and that's, I think, is what the main part about these parks is, that we've got these facilities. So I don't want to, let's see the report, but I'll have words afterwards if the way it goes. Thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? No? I'll put the motion then. All in favour? Opposed? That's carried 10-0. Chair, could you get Sarah back in? So it is. John. Oh, yeah. Okay. The next, we'll go to general business now. Councillor Byrne.
Sorry. Wasn't prepared for that. I'd just like to move a motion that procedural motion. Thank you. From the ordinary item 11.2.4, that the Barham District and Mining Museum in Howard Slab Hut be taken from the table.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor O'Keefe? I'm not sure if that is a procedural motion or not.
Take off the table. Well, we've got a second.
Yeah, we've got a seconder, yep. All in favour? Opposed? That's carried.
Do I have to say anything else? Sorry.
Well, now you have a motion,
Now you have a
right?
motion that you want to
You're
put.
going to move that.
Sorry. I forgot about this part of it. The motion will read that the council, first point, acknowledge the dedication of the Burrum and District Heritage Society Incorporated as shown for the restoration of the slab hut. Number 2, endorse that for a further 12 months, the Burrum and District Heritage Society Incorporated to commence building on works on the slab hut. Number 3, endorse a limit of 24 months in total for the building works to be finalised and the slab hut open for the viewing. And number 4, endorse council's commitment to provide the perimeter fence whilst the building is being restored.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Paul Truscott, do you wish to speak to it?
I'd just like to say thank you through the Mayor. I'd like to just commend the Burrum community actually on their perseverance in seeing the slab hut restored. It is it's a huge part of the Howard community, and I think that this opportunity given to them will just see that they do. I know that they're working so very, very hard on
shifted into that location. With the new laws and everything, the flooring, the floor joists and the roof rafters and the whole outside of the hut was actually virtually condemned, was shut down by the council because it didn't comply. It was a safety issue. Now the men's shed, I've actually been talking to the men's shed. The men's shed have just bought themselves a new Lucas mill, and they want to actually saw timber, and they want to get involved in this project, and which is great to see volunteers of a small community like that to end up leaving an asset that everyone can enjoy down the track. So the group at the slab hut do know the commitment, do know how big a job it is, but they have got a volunteer base behind them that will make this project work. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? Not, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Is there any further general business? Councillor Whelan?
Yeah, I'd like to move a motion to introduce an item of general business, just to ask a question regarding the continuation of road widening works on Boundary Road from Robert Street to Mayoral Road.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor O'Keefe, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Opposed? That's carried unanimously.
Yep, could the acting director please advise on what action the council is taking about the continuation of the road widening works on Boundary Road from Robert Street to Mayoral Road? Just asking for 2 reasons. Just from information towards our action to be ready for completion of work for our new major east-west corridor, and to ensure planning is underway to provide adequate lighting, footpaths and other measures to mitigate risk of any other catastrophic events happening on this stretch of road.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Mayor, can confirm that Boundary Road project from Mayoral Road to Robert Street intersection will be progressing into detailed design through next year's budget, 24-25 budget, potentially to be ready, shovel ready.
Thank you. Any further items of general business? We'll move to late items. Item 16.1.1, Organisational Performance Report for May 2024. This is page 603 to 620. Is there a mover that we receive a notice? Councillor Farage, second Councillor O'Keefe. Any speakers or questions? I'll put a motion. All in favour? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 16.1.2, Proposed Animal Desexing Incentive Month, July 2024. This is page 621 to 623. Councillor Truscott.
Yes, Mr Mayor, if I can please move this item, and I'll just read it out because councillors may have seen it in an email about this morning. So the first point is that council notes the Dogs Day Out event has been rescheduled for 14th of July 2024 to coincide with Desexing Awareness Month for the National Desexing Network and RSPCA. So that was changed from April when it got rained out. And point 2 is approves desexing reimbursement to the value of $50 for a cat and $100 for a dog to any Fraser Coast resident who desexes their dog or cat during the month of July 2024, subject to conditions as part of the Dogs Day Out education program.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Farage. Any speakers or questions?
I'll speak briefly to it. Yeah, just to say, it's great that we've been able to reschedule this. I know a lot of people were looking forward to it at the Brendan Hanson Park in Granville. In April, it's unfortunate that it got rained out, and I'm very appreciative to the staff that we've been able to reschedule it to July, only a couple of weeks away now. And I think it just shows that we really want to commit to encouraging people to do the right thing with their animals, to make sure you're getting your cats and dogs de-sexed, get them de-sexed, get them registered, get them microchipped, do the right thing, and you get the cheaper registration out of it, as well as, particularly just for this month of July, to get that cheaper reimbursement for the de-sexing. I think it's really important to encourage people to do that.
I've got a disclosure of interest. We did our cat yesterday.
Just confirm he's not disclosing interest.
Yeah, he's not.
You're not actually disclosing interest.
Well, just a joke.
So can I just check that the changes that you've made to the motion mean that everyone's eligible for it, not just healthcare card people?
Correct, yeah, so
Yeah.
For the month of July.
Yes, for the month of July.
So,
Okay.
special dispensation for the month of July. Concession card holders get it 12 months of the
Yeah.
year.
Yes.
But for July, there's a special incentive for everybody.
thank you for that clarification, Mr. Mayor.
Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. The next item on the run sheet is item 15.1, the application for ministerial exemption under section 2361F of the local government regulation. This is page 427 to 597 of the agenda. Under the legislation, this has a confidential report. If you want to ask questions on that, we will need to move into confidential. Is there anyone that wants to move the motion as recommended? Councillor Phil Truscott.
Well, I just need to check if there's going to be a discussion.
Oh, yeah. Is there discussion on this item? Councillor Phil Truscott's moving this. Is there a seconder? Councillor Cosgrove. Any speakers or questions? I will then put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. I'll just confirm with the CEO that that completes the business on the agenda. That being the final item on the agenda, I'll close the meeting at 11:04. Thank you, everyone, for your participation today.